So you're watching because you might be thinking about buying or selling, and you're concerned that you're not going to be able to crush it. So in response to that, I'm going to be doing two things here today. Number one, I'm going to explain why you have never heard of anything like House Advantage before and why it might be the right thing for you. And then number two, I'm going to show you the first step to buying or selling a house like a pro and not just be a passenger. Let me give you an example of the kind of result that can happen with the plan that I'm going to lay out for you. So 3 years ago, I helped a couple buy a home, Chris and Rachel. They beat out an all-cash buyer even though they offered less money. Now let that sit for a second. If you're buying a house, you need to get a loan, found out that another offer was already in and then it was all cash, and that the all cash offer was for more than you were willing to pay, how would you feel? Would you feel that you would be able to offer less and still get the house? Or would you get a little concerned and maybe even walk away? Now, this wasn't the first time I'd actually helped somebody offer less than a competing offer and still get the house. Now, that outcome, it wasn't created when we wrote the offer. It was actually created months earlier, and it's what House Advantage is and does. Now, if you've ever hinted at buying or selling a home, your social media feeds are packed. Constant pitching from every single angle. And the translation of that is, hey, are you ready to transact with me yet? And look, I'm definitely not saying people in my industry are bad. Certainly they're not. At least not all of them. But the problem with the industry isn't the people, it's the incentives. Most of the advice you get when you're thinking about buying or selling a home is coming from somebody that needs you to do something. They have to have you buy or sell or borrow or sign a contract or something. Now, that doesn't make them evil. It just means that their advice isn't neutral. And when you're making a $500,000 or $2 million or more next step home move, neutral matters. Because it's not Amazon. You don't get to change your mind within 30 days, get your money back with no questions asked. Buying or selling a home is a very big deal. Yet most people are expected to figure it out while the industry is working hard just to pull them into a transaction. And my opinion is that's completely backwards. You shouldn't be learning the game after the game has already started. There should be a step that happens before that. House Advantage is this step. That's why I created it. Independent guidance for buyers and sellers who want to make that next step move like a pro, not a passenger. So my name is Michael Hausum. I'm an active broker here in Southern California, mostly Orange County. I first got into the mortgage business right out of school a little over 35 years ago. And then a decade later, I added the real estate license. It started back when I was still getting haircuts every 3 weeks. So I've been around this industry a long time. And there's one thing that has bothered me forever. Seeing good people make expensive mistakes because they don't know what should actually happen first. Buyers overpay, sellers leave money on the table, and none of them had any real way of knowing that it was even happening. Or maybe they trusted their agent without any way to verify that what was being done on their behalf was at an elite level, or to even be able to see if it was at an amateur level or worse. So a month ago, let me give you an example of this. A month ago, some clients and I saw a house, okay? Let me read you the details on this. It's in Costa Mesa. This is a printout from the MLS. Well, you can see that. Exceptionally upgraded, boasting beautiful curb appeal, beautifully remodeled, inviting living room, upgraded with newer vanities, fixtures, lighting, tile surrounds, glass enclosures. expansive upstairs suite, defined outdoor space. Don't miss this incredible opportunity to own a turnkey home. That sounds amazing. But when they got there, it was a complete mess. It was disgusting. Furniture was totally different than was in the pictures. The upgrades were at least 15 years old, super tired. Furthermore, it was an active substance abuse recovery home. Okay, now, recovery homes, super important given the world we live in, but a little heads up would have been nice. This is an active business location when you guys show up there. It's being used as a recovery home. Didn't get that. But it was such a dump. And the vibe of this place was so bad. And here's the essential point. The listing agent is a top 10 agent in Orange County by total sales volume. There are actually only a few agents across the country that sell more houses. I looked them up. Number one agent in Orange County for over 5 years. Multi-billion dollars of sales over 20 years. Something like $285 or $290 million in sales last year. So by any of the industry standards, a total rock star. Now, think about the seller of this house. There's no way they had any idea what a disaster their listing was, right? They hired one of the top selling agents in the country, but it's probably going to cost them 15 to 20% of the value of the home because of the way they've positioned it and brought it to market. This guy trusted his home sale to a top expert, but it's going to cost them $150,000, $200,000 if he ends up selling that house. My clients couldn't wait to get out of there, but he's off there somewhere confident, hey, I hired an expert, I don't need to worry. Having no idea how much money is hemorrhaging all over the marketplace. He delegated control of his real estate journey to a pro and getting wrecked in the process. In no way to know or see that it was happening. I have another story, goes to the exact same point, flipped, and this time it's on the buying side. So almost a year ago, I met this wonderful couple at an open house. They were so cute and excited about buying their first home. And after chatting with me, they explained that the wife's mom had her license and she used to do a lot of real estate, right? Heard that before. Heard that a lot. But afterwards, later that afternoon, the mom called me and joked about her kids almost firing her and hiring me. And then she started asking me questions about the marketplace, approaches to strategies and tactics, how to prepare to write an offer. She was basically asking for a coaching session on how to help her clients, her kids, to go about the best way to buy a home and get the lowest possible price from a seller. And then she called me a couple of more times, including one time after they didn't get a house that she had wanted. So I looked her up. Turns out she had lots of history, lots of sales, but hadn't sold a house in almost a decade. And this was the agent who was helping this young couple and broke my heart. They had no idea what to do themselves. They had no idea on how to control their journey or to buy like a pro. They'd put their hope into somebody they trusted, their mom, but they put their hope in someone that had no idea what they were doing. Given the price range, it's probably a $75,000 mistake that they had just made. Because these two sweet people weren't controlling their real estate journey. They were basically operating at an amateur level at best, despite having a pro. And this is the most important part. They had no idea that it was happening. Brutal. So what I've done over the years, this is being something that has just bothered me, this sort of thing for years. So I worked hard to build better programs for my clients here in Orange County. And it worked, right? But that's only helping just the people that hire me as their broker locally in Orange County. And then I did some coaching for other agents, which was useful, but that exposed another problem. Turns out a lot of agents really don't want to become better agents. They want more leads, they want more contracts, they want more closings, they want you to sign them, and they want them sooner. And across the country, a huge percentage of agents, they only do a handful of deals a year, right? So for many of these folks, getting truly great at being an agent just really isn't on their agenda. And again, it doesn't mean they're bad people, but it does mean that you can't afford to be a passenger in their car. So the shift for all of this happened years ago when a past client asked for help buying a home out of state. So I had helped him sell his home here in Southern California. It went beautifully. It was a total home run. But when he started buying in another state, he got frustrated really fast. 3 weeks or so into it, he calls me. He's like, Mike, I feel everybody's trying to just get me into a house, but nobody's really helping me in the process and making decisions. You know, the agents that he met were opening doors, sending listings, pushing him towards a decision, but with no strategy, no plan, no sense for him that there was anybody protecting the whole project. To him, it felt like, hey, here's the offer paperwork. I need you to sign right here, press hard. Now, so he knew that I had a buyer process that mirrored the selling process that we had used together. So he asked me to teach it to him and then to stay in the background as his advisor while he found and then worked with the local agent. That was the key. I wasn't replacing the local agent. I couldn't be out of state, obviously, right? But I was helping him think clearly, know what should happen, choose the right help, and then control the process as we went along. So that's what we did. He went back into the market, navigating with the pro-level plan. He understood what to ask. He understood what to watch for. He understood what mattered and what was just noise. So we bought a house. And he paid about 70 grand less than the agent told him was possible. So this got my attention, right? And then right after that, something similar happened on the selling side. Another past client had a condo in Massachusetts he needed to sell. Now, I had helped him buy and sell a couple homes here in Orange County. He asked me if I could actually be his broker there. Well, of course I couldn't, but I could advise him. So I walked him through how to sell like a pro, how to think about preparation, how to judge the plan, how to manage the agent relationship, and then how to begin to navigate and make sure that all of everything, the process was being handled properly. And it worked. He sold for far more than his broker thought possible. That was the moment to me that Haus Advantage became obvious. The industry is missing a category, and that category is to help you make the right decision before the industry actually gets a hold of you. That right there is the gap. Deciding you want to do something, the industry getting a hold of you, that gap right in the middle, that is where Haus Advantage sits. My fundamental conviction is this: the first professional that you should hire isn't the one that sells your house or writes your offer. It should be the one helping you decide how to go about buying or selling, or even if you should, in the first place. Everything else just grows out of that idea. Before you buy or sell, you should know what should happen first. You should understand the pro-level moves that most buyers and sellers never even see. You should know how to get ready, how to navigate the market, how to manage all the professionals involved, and how to avoid being just dragged through this process blindly. Now, you don't need to become a realtor. That's not the point. The point is to stop being a passenger in the process. Your next home move, buying or selling, it's too expensive to just figure it out as you go along. The biggest risk in real estate isn't just hiring the wrong professional. It's actually hiring the professional and having no idea whether the plan is actually being done well. That is a dangerous position to be in. Because on the outside, a weak plan and a strong plan can look very similar. Lots of the same things might be going on, but it's the outcome itself that can be completely different. One of them gets you prepared, positioned, protected, and in control. The other one just turns you into cargo. And you don't want to be cargo. Cargo doesn't know where it's going, and it doesn't decide how it's going to go. So if you've been thinking, I don't want to be sold to, I want to understand what I'm doing, or I don't want 19 people chasing me and helping me figure this out, I want my own clear plan. Or I don't want to just pick an agent, cross my fingers and hope they're good. And maybe even more importantly, I don't want to leave tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table because I didn't know what I didn't know. Any of those things describe what may have been going on in your head or occurring to you, then you here have found a potential solution. Independent guidance before and during that journey, so you can make the $500,000 to $2 million or whatever your range is, next step move like a pro and not a passenger. Okay, great. So then, what does this look like? How does it work? How do you do this? So great questions. Thank you for asking. What I'm going to show you here isn't just another real estate course. It's not a checklist. It's not a salesperson telling you what to do. What it is, it's the roadmap that I wish every buyer and seller had before they took another step. All of it is about making better decisions way before the offer you write or the offer you get ever exists. Again, all of this is based on my fundamental conviction that the first pro you hire should not be the one that sells the house or writes the offer. It should be the one helping you decide how to go about buying or selling in the first place, okay? So the tool to help you is something that I've come up with that I call the next step model. It's actually pretty simple. It's identical to the system and processes that experienced pros follow. So this is it here. This is the representation. All these colors, this is a diagram of my next step model. Right in the center of it here in gold is your dream outcome. And that would be buy or sell like a pro, don't be a passenger. And then there's 3 different stages necessary to get this outcome. That's what all of this shows. Frankly, the only thing that's important is that it focuses on your dream outcome and it lays out the plan for how you actually get there. So I'm going to spend 0 more seconds walking you through it. It exists. So let's imagine for a quick second then that we're sitting down together tomorrow, okay? And so what would be the first thing we would do? So this is stage 1, is that we prepare. A helpful analogy here is the journey. When you're going on a trip, what is step 1? Is it get in the car and drive? No, of course not. It's the planning. And what planning and preparation does in a real estate transaction is it creates options for you. Where do we want to go? How are we going to get there? How long is it going to take? What sorts of things need to be happening along the way? Whether it's an automotive journey or a real estate journey, all of that stuff is figured out before you start packing up, let alone getting into the car. So this is before looking at the Zillow app on your phone, before choosing the realtor or the lender or any other steps. Now, it is possible that you actually may have already started driving on your journey and realize, well, maybe I skipped over or kind of half-assed the preparation part. That's okay. That can be fixed. In fact, that's what most people do. So you're not alone with that. It even happens with folks that I've worked with in the past. 2 weeks ago, I met with a couple I'd helped buy a home, right? Seth and Mia. They're so lovely. Without my knowing it, they'd been out looking at houses and trying to make plans for their next move. The only thing that they had thought through was that they knew that they were going to keep the existing home, okay? No other planning, no other work had been done. But instead of going about it at a pro level, applying something like this, the way we did it before, they just started going out looking at different homes, bright and shiny objects. They figured, hey, you know what? We did this not too long ago, so we should be just fine. And I see this so often, I've actually come up with a name for it. I call it costly confidence. And frankly, costly confidence is the enemy that has to be fought in stage one. All of the 3 stages, actually, they have their own enemy that we need to fight. Just because they had some experience did not mean that they actually had the ability to operate at a pro level. Costly confidence could get very expensive very fast. And you may not even know that it happened. You may never even find out that that happened. And now these two, Seth and Mia, they're people, we've done all of this work previously, perfectly executing on the model less than 2 years ago. So in sitting down, we took a step back and we worked again through stage one, exactly as we would do if I was sitting down with you, okay? And when we finished that brief meeting, everything had changed. We now had a plan. We knew exactly what the next steps were going to be. And as a result, they had a renewed sense of control. The frustration was gone, which then led to some confidence. The plan for where to go, how to get there, and when to do it was now in place. That's how stage one works, okay? So if we're sitting together and we just completed stage one, double check, making sure that all of the what's and the how's and the why's fit in with what you needed and when the timing worked for you, then we would talk about stage two, okay? It's not brain surgery to figure out stage two. It's for when we actually start to move. Now we navigate. This is when we pull out of the garage, we start going down the road, and we hit the real world. So if stage one, preparation, created options for us, the next stage, the navigation stage, that protects those options and it protects the plan. But we also need to be aware of Mike Tyson's brilliant real estate advice. Everybody's got a plan until somebody hits them in the mouth. So we need to be ready when the marketplace starts swinging. 3 days ago, Amy and Travis, they've got their house on the market right now, checked in with me for some help in stage two, the navigation stage. Their home hasn't sold yet, and they're starting to get concerned. Maybe they had done something wrong or that something else needed to be done. So we walked through the pertinent parts of the 2 different missions in stage two, which were reading the market and then applying the strategy, okay? And it turns out that sometimes not doing something is the pro level move. But you can't afford to make that call after the fact, right? So keeping with that analogy, we confirmed their location on the map. We went through the various turns that they had made to get there, as well as figured out the speed that they were driving. It turns out they're doing great. The market reports and the headlines and a little bit of input from a mother-in-law that lastly bought a home during Reagan's second term. Not only were they not helpful, but it tempted them to drift off course. Market drift is what that was, and that's the real estate version of getting punched in the face. Market drift is the enemy that we've got to defeat in this stage two, navigation. We're driving down the road, navigating our way. We do not want to drift off course. So we sat there, we looked at the model that we had set up so many months before for them. That was kind of our North Star. We relied on for the navigation and the decision process. Then we figured out that what we needed to do was nothing. Everything that was influencing them was just noise. It was meaningless. So we stick to the plan. So right now for you, if you are about to get punched in the face by the market, or maybe you thought, did I just get punched in the face? Do you have a way of knowing whether that was real or not? Do you have a pro level way to anticipate that and then handle it at the moment? And that is part of the beauty of the House Advantage system that I referred to earlier. It's not just information, but guidance and help all the way along the way. Okay, so now back to our little thought experiment, our Zoom meeting, where we're walking through your stages, your plan. And now we are on to the third and final stage, and that is executing, okay? And this is where the whole point of everything happens. Because at the very end of stage 3, if you're buying, that's when you get your keys. The goal. If you're selling, that's when you turn over your keys, right? And obviously that's really the only thing you care about. Well, when you're selling, it's not so much turning over the keys, it's getting all the money. But getting those keys or turning over the keys, you want all of that done like a pro, not just a passenger. This third stage is where we're cashing in on the options that we created in stage 1 and the protections that we used while we were navigating through stage 2. So the stage 3, all of that, it begins when you actually write an offer, or if you're buying, or getting an offer when you sell one, and then all the way through the closing itself. Now, in our little thought experiment, if in real life I was working with you through all of these stages and planning, your journey, I would tell you one of my very favorite stage 3 stories. And I kind of mentioned it at the beginning. Remember Chris and Rachel beating out the all cash offer that was higher than theirs? That's a third stage story. Now, the obstacle that they had to overcome is what I called closing pressure. It was definitely a risk with these guys. Closing pressure is the final enemy, the final dragon to slay in these 3 stages. And closing pressure is when circumstances or heightened excitement about almost being at the very end of the journey and getting there can cause somebody to rush or change the plan at the last minute or miss an expensive detail. So in this particular case, the listing agent had made a huge big deal to us about the fact that they had an all-cash offer on the table right when we were presenting our offer. Maintaining control is the counter to that pressure, right? And we just followed the plan. We didn't let that change what we were doing, okay? And then later, it turns out, we found out there were actually some weaknesses with that cash buyer that we never knew about. In some of the strategy that we had used, originally put in place way back months earlier in stage 1, those strategies ended up being super important and really meaningful to the seller from some things that we had no idea that were going on that were influential and important to their past. One of those was buyer staging, an important recipe ingredient I use and all that that means. Another one, another strategy that we had put in place, I call practicing the contract and the advantages that that can offer. So we did all of those things just as we had planned months before. And that's part of the thing with strategy. Sometimes you never know which bullseye you're going to hit with any particular strategy you put in place. That's why you've got to put them all in play, because you just never know. The result for them is they got the house for less. But what happened here, it wasn't an audible that we called right in the moment. That stage 3 was just executing what we had put in place way earlier, back in the preparation stage, and then multiple decisions that we had made along the way for months during the navigation stage. I should also mention at this point, Hugh. Hugh is a super recent member of my House Advantage program. Hugh lives in Florida and he's buying a house, a vacation home in Michigan. And if you're from Michigan, he bought right there. So he actually just texted me earlier this week because he just bought a home. His words, "Your help saved me $35,000. And I met Hugh before he had ever hired an agent. It was a perfect execution of the entire House Advantage model. Saved him $35,000. And that's exactly what happens when you prepare properly, navigate the market, and then execute the plan. It was by far the best text that I've gotten the last month, for sure. And frankly, I could tell you more stories about how folks following this plan ended up paying less than other buyers, offers that on the surface most people would have thought were better. And frankly, that's not just on the buying side, it's on the selling side too. The selling side of what's at stake fits nicely the story I mentioned at the beginning about Chris, about helping him. It was so influential in starting House Advantage. What Chris and I did is basically forced his agent back east to stick to Chris's plan. And the result of that was getting about 10% more than the agent told us was possible. If you're selling a house, do the math in your head on that. Would an extra 10% more than what the market was telling you you could get would be something you would appreciate and love? Of course. So here's the question about that. Do you know how to go about putting yourself in a position where a seller would be willing to take less from you than somebody else? Do you know how to go about doing that? Or if you're selling, do you know what it would take to get a price that's in excess of the recent comps in your neighborhood, or even that the local neighborhood pro could tell you would be possible? If you know those things, amazing. You're rare. I don't know why you're still watching. But if not, it shouldn't be discouraging to you. What it means is that you just might want to consider if you need some additional help. And not additional help down the road at some point. All of this sort of positioning and help requires it way back at the beginning, way before the actual journey even starts. Right around the time you think, maybe we want to take a trip. That's when it starts. So with this model and with what House Advantage is doing, a question that oftentimes come up is, well, are you actually replacing my realtor? What is this? No, it's not replacing a realtor. It's not even close. The realtor has a job. Your lender has a job. An inspector has a job. My job is different. My job is helping you make sure that every one of those professionals is helping you achieve your plan. Instead of just moving their part of the transaction forward. That's the difference. Imagine how different your next step would feel if every single major decision had already been thought through. If you never had to wonder if you were asking the right questions. Imagine going out interviewing an agent about the right things that you needed to happen, instead of just, do I like them, and hoping you pick the right one. Imagine writing an offer, knowing exactly why you've made every decision that brought you all the way to that point. Imagine selling your home, knowing whether all of the strategy you've used is actually good, instead of just trusting that it is. That's what House Advantage is really about. So if does this way of thinking make sense or resonate to you? By now, if we're watching this, you probably already know whether you're the kind of person who wants to be a passenger and let somebody else handle it for you, or somebody that wants their own plan. If you're the second type, I've actually put something together that walks you through this entire framework in more detail. It explains the model, the journey, the stages, the biggest mistakes that buyers and sellers make, how professionals think differently. And that's the very best next step. If you'd like me to send this to you, comment the word advantage here below, or you can find me on Instagram, DM me the word advantage, and I'll send it right over to you to take a look at. Then you can decide if this approach fits with the way that you would like to make your next move. Or maybe you need a little bit more time or a way to check to see if you do need additional help. And I've actually got something for you as well. It's my real estate readiness assessment. It's free, takes 4 minutes, and it'll tell you exactly where you're strong, where you're exposed, and then what your next best step would be. You can quickly find the readiness assessment at houseadvantage.com, and I'll actually put a link to that in the description. So thank you for watching. I appreciate it.